already did it.
All right, so yes, 11 to 20 do today. Just check those. 20 do tomorrow. Are there any questions on the 11 through 20 questions before we move on and continue reading?
Are we only reading Genesis?
No.
Oh, we're reading one?
No, the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're only reading Genesis. I mean, you're certainly welcome to read more on your own, but
Hey, what page are we in?
but
What page are we on?
let's see, what page are we on? Something like that. But any questions on the 11 through 20 questions?
No.
No?
So what we done with this, like, right before things are...
Yeah, pretty much. Then we'll move on to Dante. This is part of our preparation for Dante. There's a lot of sinning happening in Genesis of various types, and we're going to see in remember the first part of the Divine Comedy that we're going to read. The info is about hell, journey through hell, and sin and its consequences. So, which is a big theme of Genesis. Yes.
On the book you gave us to Dante.
Yes.
We're reading all of the whole book?
No, we're going to skip some of the cantos, but a lot of what's in that book is actually notes. The actual text itself of Dante is like a third or a quarter of that, probably.
So
There's a lot of notes and things in there to help us understand it.
there's only Inferno in that part, in that book you gave us? All three?
Right, that only has Inferno in it. The other two parts, Purgatorio and Paradiso, we're not going to read. I've got copies of them if you want one. I can give them to you, but this is just the first part, the first of these three parts of it. It's actually much shorter than the Odyssey, the whole work. But it's just, this edition has a lot of notes in it. Okay, so let's continue. Anybody not have the 21 through 30 questions? Okay, they're all on Jupiter. Would you guys take your coats off? It's not that cold. Well, you could move elsewhere. You can wear a sweater. All right. Yes. So, wait. Actually, before we continue, Genesis poetry, which is going to be due December 7th. Now, listen. The directions are on here. You have an option of one of these three poems, or you can memorize any of the poems from last time that you didn't yet recite for grade. So if you want to do Ulysses, or the beginning of the Odyssey, or Chapman's Homer, as long as it's one that you have not already recited, you can choose one of those instead.
Time out. Why are they all the same length?
Yeah.
Because they are this time. Now, so if you want to do a shorter one, you can look at the previous the previous set of poems that I gave you. You could do the opening of the Odyssey. That would be an option if you already did Chapman's Homer, or the other way around. If you did the Odyssey, you could do Chapman's Homer. Okay, you can do one of these three, or you can do one of the ones from the last sheet that you didn't already do. Okay,
So
those.
I did the Homer, that Odyssey thing. I can do the other short one.
Yes, you could do Chapman's Homer from there, yes. All right, so those are your options. You've got three new options now of poems to recite. Monday, December 7th, please. That's, hold on a second. When do we get back from Thanksgiving break? You know what? No, we don't. No, sorry. Sorry, I'm just confused. Something to do with my daughter's school. No, yeah, it's not the Monday that we get back from Thanksgiving break. It's a week after that. Okay? And the next day is our next festival day, which is why December 8th, Immaculate Conception. So that's why these are due on the 7th. For reciting early, yes, I'll bump you up half a letter grade. The 7th.
Oh,
The 7th, yeah.
I might just do this one because it's only three, like, it's not unlike the other one. It's like,
This one on the back. Do not go gentle into that.
It's like it's like 3 lines per stanza instead of 4.
Yeah, I mean, they're all basically three. The stanzas are sets of 3 lines. Notice the second one here, the Prayer of St. Bernard, goes on to the back also. That would be too short. Also, extra credit if you choose either Ulysses or one of these ones by Dante. So, like last time, so, do not go gentle in the back of the night. That one's a bit easier. No extra credit for that one. But if you pick one of the other two, I'll give you some extra credit. Or if you do Ulysses again, yes. I don't have it with me, but it's on Jupiter grades.
If I recite one of the old ones before December 4th, that's still extra credit?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep, as long as it's one that you didn't already do. Yeah, any poem, so you can get multiple extra credits. You get 1 extra credit for reciting no later than December 4th, outside of class time. You get 1 extra credit if you pick either of the ones by Dante or Ulysses. And then the third opportunity for extra credit is if you're selected to compete on Tuesday the 8th by your house. Yeah.
You did beat with that.
Yes.
Wow.
All right. So here we have the first 2 selections here. Just quickly, I want to talk a little bit about each poem, and then we'll take a look at one each day, the next few days. But so the first one here, this is the very beginning of the Divine Comedy. Remember, we were talking about how the Divine Comedy, the whole work, there are 3 parts: Inferno, Purgatorio, Paradiso. And how many? Anyone remember what the chapters of the Divine Comedy are called? They're not called chapters or books like in Homer. What are they called here?
I think you told us to.
First letter, different first letter.
C.
C?
Yup. And there's 100 of them.
No,
I'm not gonna write it yet.
C.
Well, I know.
If you haven't, maybe you have it in your notes.
C?
I got it. I got it.
I think second letter. C. C.
Canto.
Yes, cantos. Yes, 100 cantos or canti.
Let me write this.
Cantos, it means songs. And that's 33 in each of these parts times 10. With 10, wait, what's a 10 that might be relevant to Dante? 10 what?
No.
Something from the Bible? 10 commandments, right. So there's 100 here, 33 plus 1. The very first one at the beginning of Inferno is an introduction to the whole work. So this is the beginning of Canto 1 of the Inferno, this introductory canto to the whole work, and you've got the first few stanzas of it there. This is obviously by Dante, and the translator here is Mark Musa. That's the translator of the edition we're going to read. I think it's a pretty good translation. It's pretty straightforward, but also has a nice rhythm to it. The second one, this is the very end of the Divine Comedy. This is the beginning of Canto 33 of Paradiso. So the beginning of the last canto of the whole thing at the top of heaven. Because in Paradiso, Dante starts at the bottom of heaven and works his way up. And so St. Bernard here is speaking. He's portrayed by Dante as being one of the holiest saints, and here he's speaking about Mary, about Our Lady, as the very best of all of God's creation. That's what that is there. So we have the very beginning of the Divine Comedy and pretty much the end of it. This translation is a different translation. It's a little bit nicer in terms of it's a bit more poetic, but it is a bit more difficult. You notice it uses thou and thee and thy in there, and that's by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, an American poet. And then the last one here, Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night by Dylan Thomas, is a very popular poem about death and regret, and reaching the end of your life and looking back on it before you go into that good night, the night of and sleep of death. So we'll take a closer look at these poems, one of them each day for the next few days. But start taking a look at those. If you're looking for an easy one, this last one, Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, is the easiest. There are a lot of repeated lines in there that has to do with the type of poem that it is. But notice that, actually, we'll come back to these other things later. Are there any questions just right off the bat about any of these? Okay, please start working on these earlier rather than later. I would recommend you pick one that you at least have a plan. Read it over once or twice a day. Get yourself familiar with it. Look up words. Ask me questions. All that jazz. Yes? How many layers of hell are there? Dante, we'll see. Dante structures hell. There are a few different ways. There are three major sections of it. There's upper hell, middle hell, and lower hell. But there are also, the way that we usually think of it is there's 9 circles of hell that he talks about. And some of those are subdivided also, but 9 usually is what he says. 9, 3. Remember, again, with these threes, these numbers, this idea of the universe is having a structure and an order and a perfection to it. Even hell is part of this perfection of the universe that God has created. But we'll see more about Dante's hell after we finish Genesis. And it's important to keep in mind that what Dante says about hell is not like, the be-all and the end-all, but this is how he describes it. It's just a very famous way of structuring it. All right, so let's continue with Genesis. We're in chapter, what are we up to, 26. So we just had Jacob and Esau. Who are Jacob and Esau?
They're 2 brothers.
They're 2 brothers. Who's their father? No.
Isaac.
Yes, Isaac is their father. Who's Isaac?
Abram's son.
Yes, Isaac is Abram's son. What's his wife's name?
Sarah. Sarai.
No, not what's Isaac's wife's name?
Rebecca.
Rebecca. Yeah. Okay, Rebecca. Isaac's parents are.
Isn't it like Nahor and Abraham and Sarah?
Yeah, Abraham and Sarah. Rebecca's parents are Nahor. And, no. Rebecca's grandfather's Nahor, Abraham's brother. So I guess actually it'd be easier if we write this the other way around. Sarah, Abraham. Abraham's got a brother, Nahor. And then his. Yeah. Again, you don't need to know all the names. You should know the major people and how they're connected. So Bethuel is Nahor's son, Abram's nephew.
He's gonna put all these names in that book.
Well, I mean, these are the ones you should know.
Are you gonna ask us like how they're related though? Like
No.
I
I mean, in general, you should know who these people are. You should know that Rebecca is Isaac's wife. Abraham and Sarah are related. They have their son Isaac. Remember, Abraham's also got Ishmael that he had with Hagar. But the people that I circle, you should know generally how they're. So we had Jacob and Esau. They're twin sons of Isaac and Rebecca. And just like with Sarah, who had been barren, who'd been infertile for all these years, and then finally gets a son in her old age, we see something similar happen with Rebecca, where for a while she can't conceive, and then she conceives these sons. Yes?
Abraham has a brother,
Yep.
and his brother has a son
Mm-hmm.
that has Rebecca.
No, Rebecca's Nahor's grandson. But yeah, Isaac and Rebecca are related. They're first cousins once removed.
But they have a that's so
So remember, Abraham and Sarah are half siblings, so at least it's better than that.
Is that bro?
So a couple of things here. One is, in general, this is just more common in the ancient world, especially things like the cousins. Really, up until like the last couple hundred years, this was very common, especially if you're worried about concerns like who's going to get my stuff after I die. You're worried about inheritance. You want to be keeping things in the family. Now, you don't want to get too weird, generally speaking, but like cousins, good options. You know who their family is. They're not that genetically similar. So anyway, like cousins, second cousins, third cousins. I mean, you even very recently in American history, you would have this kind of thing. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, our president during the Second World War. His wife was like a third cousin of his, Eleanor Roosevelt. So especially with people who have a lot of money and possessions in the pre-modern world, this is not uncommon. Okay, so they've got these twins, Jacob and Esau. No, I should write them the other way around. Why? I should write them like this.
Because one's older?
Yeah, which one's older?
Esau.
Yeah, Esau's older, but what do we learn about Esau?
Esau's, he's a hunter.
He's a hunter, he's hairy, he's a redhead, yeah.
And Jacob is more laid back and like chill.
Yes, and there's this prophecy that Jacob is going to be the one who rules. It's not going to be Esau, the older
He
brother.
takes his, what's it called?
Yes.
I think I read a little too far, because I took the.
No, that's right. This is what we read yesterday, the end
Oh,
25. Right, his birthright as the firstborn. So Esau, as the firstborn, he comes back home, he's hungry.
He's hungry.
He's like, man, give me some of that stew. I'll give you my Jacob says, give me your birthright. And he says, okay, fine. So, I mean, really, like a kind of nasty trick by Jacob. But also, Esau apparently didn't really care about inheriting these things from his father. So Jacob, does that to him. We're going to learn more about Jacob in chapter 26 here. So we're on page 18. Going to keep moving, try to get through a few chapters today.
Wait, okay, I'm sorry. But you're saying Bethuel, that's who to who? Who?
So Abraham and Nahor are brothers.
Mhm.
Bethuel is Nahor's son. Rebecca is his daughter.
Okay.
So Rebecca is Nahor's granddaughter.
Which is Abraham.
So Abraham's great niece.
I'm writing this down.
And Isaac is Abraham's son.
Yep.
So Nahor had a son earlier from him.
Right. Well, remember, Abraham doesn't have Isaac until he's very old. He's like 100 when he has Isaac. But yes, that's why they don't quite line up. The generations there. All right. So chapter 26. Now there was a famine in the land, besides the previous famine that had occurred in the days of Abraham. So Isaac went to Gerar to Abimelech, king of the Philistines. We've seen Abimelech lots before. The Philistines are his people. The Lord appeared to him and said, do not go down to Egypt. Stay in the land of which I shall tell you. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. For to you and to your descendants I will give all these lands, and I will establish the oath which I swore to your father Abraham. I will multiply your descendants as the stars of heaven, and will give your descendants all these lands, and by your descendants all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because Abraham obeyed me and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. So Isaac lived in Gerar. When the men of the place asked about his wife, he said, she is my sister, for he was afraid to say my wife, thinking, the men of the place might kill me on account of Rebekah, for she is beautiful. We've heard this line before by his father. It came about when he had been there a long time that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out through a window and saw, and behold, Isaac was caressing his wife Rebekah. Then Abimelech called Isaac and said, behold, certainly she is your wife. How then did you say she is my sister? And Isaac said to him, because I said I might die on account of her. Abimelech said, what is this you have done to us? One of the people might easily have lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us. So Abimelech charged all the people, saying, he who touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. Now Isaac sowed in that land and reaped in the same year 100-fold. And the Lord blessed him, and the man became rich, and continued to grow richer until he became very wealthy. For he had possessions of flocks and herds and a great household, so that the Philistines envied him. Now, all the wells which his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham his father, the Philistines stopped up by filling them with earth. Then Abimelech said to Isaac, go away from us, for you are too powerful for us. And Isaac departed from there and camped in the valley of Gerar and settled there. Then Isaac dug again the wells of water which had been dug in the days of his father Abraham, for the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham. And he gave them the same names which his father had given them. But when Isaac named the well Esek, because they contended with him. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over it too, so he named it Sitnah. He moved away from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. So he named it Rehoboth, for he said, at last the Lord has made room for us, and we will be fruitful in the land. Then he went up from there to Beersheba. The Lord appeared to him the same night and said, I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not fear, for I am with you. I will bless you and multiply your descendants, for the sake of my servant Abraham. So he built an altar there and called upon the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there, and there Isaac's servants dug a well. Then Abimelech came to him from Gerar with his advisor Ahuzah and Phicol, the commander of his army. Isaac said to them, why have you come to me, since you hate me and have sent me away from you? They said, "We see plainly that the Lord has been with you." So we said, "Let there now be an oath between us, even between you and us, and let us make a covenant with you, that you will do us no harm, just as we have not touched you and have done to you nothing but good, and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord." Then he made them a feast, and they ate and drank. In the morning they arose early and exchanged oaths. Then Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. Now it came about on the same day that Isaac's servants came in and told him about the well which they had dug, and said to him, "We have found water." So he called it Sheba. Therefore, the name of the city is Beersheba to this day. When Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. And they brought grief to Isaac and Rebekah. Okay, in 26, we see Isaac dealing with some of the same people his father did, Abimelech, whom Abraham had made a covenant with. He tells Abimelech a similar thing about Rebekah, that Abraham had told him about Sarah, saying she's my sister, and somebody catches them enjoying each other's company and says, I don't think she's your sister, I think she's your wife. There's the digging of wells. Remember, this is a pretty dry part of the earth, and if you've got livestock, they need lots of water. So there's this concern of digging wells so that there's enough water. All right, 27. Now it came about when Isaac was old and his eyes were too dim to see, that he called his older son Esau and said to him, "My son." And he said to him, "Here I am." Isaac said, "Behold now, I am old, and I do not know the day of my death. Now then, please take your gear, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me, and prepare a savory dish for me such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, so that my soul may bless you before I die." Rebekah was listening while Isaac spoke to his son Esau. So when Esau went to the field to hunt for game to bring home, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Behold, I heard your father speak to your brother Esau, saying, 'Bring me some game and prepare a savory dish for me, that I may eat, and bless you in the presence of the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, listen to me as I command you. Go now to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats from there, that I may prepare them as a savory dish for your father, such as he loves. Then you shall bring it to your father, that he may eat, so that he may bless you before his death.' Jacob answered his mother Rebekah, 'Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me. Then I will be as a deceiver in his sight, and I will bring upon myself a curse and not a blessing.' But his mother said to him, 'Mother made savory food such as his father loved.' Then Rebekah took the best garments of Esau, her elder son, which were with her in the house, and she put them on Jacob, her younger son. And she put the skins of the young goats on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. She also gave the savory food and the bread which she had made to her son Jacob. Then he came to his father and said, 'My father.' And he said, 'Here I am. Who are you, my son?' Jacob said to his father, 'I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Get up, please, sit and eat of my game, that you may bless me.' Isaac said to his son, 'How is it that you have it so quickly, my son?' And he said, 'Because the Lord your God caused it to happen to me.' Then Isaac said to Jacob, 'Please come close, that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esau or not.' So Jacob came close to Isaac his father, and he felt him and said, 'The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau.' He did not recognize him, because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. And he said, 'Are you really my son Esau?' And he said, 'I am.' So he said, 'Bring it to me, and I will eat of my son's game, that I may bless you.' And he brought it to him, and he ate. He also brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, 'Please come close and kiss me, my son.' So he came close and kissed him. And when he smelled the smell of his garments, he blessed him and said, 'See, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field which the Lord has blessed. Now may God give you of the dew of heaven and of the fatness of the earth, and an abundance of grain and new wine. May people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be master of your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be those who curse you, and blessed be those who bless you.' Now it came about, as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had hardly gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. Then he also made savory food and brought it to his father. And he said to his father, let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that you may bless me. Isaac his father said to him, who are you? And he said, I am your son, your firstborn, Esau. Then Isaac trembled violently and said, who was he then that hunted game and brought it to me, so that I ate of all of it before you came and blessed him? Yes, and he shall be blessed. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, and said to his father, bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, your brother came deceitfully and has taken away your blessing. Then he said, is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing. And he said, have you not reserved a blessing for me? But Isaac replied to Esau, behold, I have made him your master, and all his relatives I have given to him as servants, and with grain and new wine I have sustained him. Now as for you then, what can I do, my son? Esau said to his father, do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. So Esau lifted his voice and wept. Then Isaac his father answered and said to him, behold, away from the fertility of the earth shall be your dwelling, and away from the dew of heaven from above. By your sword you shall live, and your brother you shall serve. But it shall come about when you become restless, that you will break his yoke from your neck. Here, then I will kill my brother Jacob. Now when the words of her elder son Esau were reported to Rebekah, she sent and called her younger son Jacob, and said to him, behold, your brother Esau is consoling himself concerning you by planning to kill you. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice and arise, flee to Haran to my brother Laban. Stay with him a few days until your brother's fury subsides, until your brother's anger against you subsides, and he forgets what you did to him. Then I will send and get you from there. Why should I be bereaved of you both in one day? Rebekah said to Isaac, I am tired of living because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob takes a wife from the daughters of Heth like these, from the daughters of the land, what good will my life be to me? All right, Jacob, after getting Esau to give up his birthright, does what here? As Isaac, their father, is nearing death.
He takes his blessing as well.
Yes, his father's dying blessing. Isaac asks Esau to go and hunt some game for him.
That's wild.
Bring it and cook it.
Jacob.
Right. It's Rebekah, notice, who overhears this and tells Jacob to do it.
Wait, wow.
I guess she prefers Jacob.
That's so wild.
Yeah. And so he takes his father's dying blessing,
So then,
which includes this wish that he rule over the other members of the family. He says to Esau, when Esau figures it out, look, I already made him your master. By preparing the food, he lies to his father. He has these goat skins on his hand and his neck so that his father will think that he's the hairy brother. And so Esau is very angry with Jacob. And where is he going to, what does Esau want to do?
kill him.
He wants to kill him. Finds out about this, so she's going to look out for Jacob. She tells him, do what?
Go to Haran and go to brother Laban.
Yeah, go to Laban, my brother. And Laban is Rebekah's brother. And Jacob's going to go stay with him.
So he wants to go to his uncle.
Right, to his uncle. His uncle Laban. And notice at the very end, Rebekah says, I'm tired of these women, the daughters of Heth, these people that we're living among. Esau had married some locals and had some children with them. And she's upset about that. So this is probably also part of her reason for sending him to Laban. Remember, Isaac and Abraham, they've been living in Canaan. But Abraham sent one of his servants to their native land to get a wife for his son. So now Rebekah is sending Jacob, her son, back there to that native land, not in Canaan. She doesn't want him to marry a Canaanite woman. All right, chapter 28. So Isaac called Jacob and blessed him, and charged him and said to him, you shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Paddan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father. And from there, take to yourself a wife from the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you, that you may become a company of peoples. May he also give you the blessing of Abraham to you and to your descendants with you, that you may possess the land of your sojournings, which God gave to Abraham. Then Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Paddan Aram to Laban, son of Bethuel the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. Now Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Paddan Aram to take himself a wife from there. And that when he blessed him, he charged him, saying, You shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. And that Jacob had obeyed his father and his mother and had gone to Paddan Aram. So Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan displeased his father Isaac. And Esau went to Ishmael and married, besides the wives that he had, Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth. So he goes off and he marries some more locals to stick it to his mother. Then Jacob departed from Beersheba and went towards Haran. So he's going towards Laban's place. He came to a certain place and spent the night there, because the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of the place and put it under his head and lay down in that place. He had a dream, and behold, a ladder was set on the earth with its top reaching to heaven. And behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie, I will give it to you and to your descendants. Your descendants will also be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. And in you and in your descendants shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Behold, I am with you and will keep you wherever you go and will bring you back to this land. For I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. He was afraid and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. So Jacob rose early in the morning and took the stone that he had put under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on its top. He called the name of that place Bethel. However, previously the name of the city had been Luz. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, If God will be with me and will keep me on this journey that I take, and will give me food to eat and garments to wear, and I return to my father's house in safety, then the Lord will be my God. This stone which I have set up as a pillar will be God's house, and of all that you give me, I will surely give a tenth to you. Jacob's on his journey, and what's his experience that he has on his way from Canaan to Haran?
He meets Rachel?
Not yet. He'll meet her in chapter 29. In chapter 28, Peter, what happens to him in this place called Bethel, which is Hebrew for house of God? What happens to him there? Bethel's the name that he gives to it. Take a look at verses 12 to...
Oh, he had a dream.
Yes, he has a dream. What does he see in the dream?
The ladder was sitting on the gods.
He sees God, and what else?
The angels.
Angels, and what are the angels doing?
Ascending and descending.
On a what? How are they going up and down? Ascending and descending. On a ladder, right? Jacob's ladder. And this ladder, you see, is reaching from earth to heaven. The angels going up and down with God at the top of it. In this vision here. All right, 29. Jacob meets Rachel. This will be, I think, our last chapter today. Jacob meets Rachel. Then Jacob went on his journey. And notice he makes this vow. He says, I will worship the Lord as my God if he makes his journey successful for me. All right, 29. Then Jacob went on his journey and came to the land of the sons of the east. He looked and saw a well in the field. And behold, 3 flocks of sheep were lying there beside it. For from that well they watered the flocks. Now the stone on the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks were gathered there, they would then roll the stone from the mouth of the well and water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place on the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, My brothers, where are you from? And they said, We are from Haran. He said to them, Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said to them, Is it well with him? And they said, "It is well. And here is Rachel, his daughter, coming with the sheep." He said, "Behold, it is still high day. It is not time for the livestock to be gathered. Water the sheep and go, pasture them." But they said, "We cannot until all the flocks are gathered and they roll the stone from the mouth of the well. Then we water the sheep." While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. When Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, Jacob went up and rolled the stone from the mouth of the well and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted his voice and wept. Jacob told Rachel that he was a relative of her father and that he was Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. So when Laban heard the news of Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him, and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. Then he related to Laban all these things. Laban said to him, "Surely you are my bone and my flesh." And he stayed with him a month. Then Laban said to Jacob, "Because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be?" Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful of form and face. Now Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, "I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel." Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than to give her to another man. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, for my time is completed, that I may go into her." Laban gathered all the men of the place and made a feast. Now in the evening he took his daughter Leah and brought her to him, and Jacob went into her. Laban also gave his maid Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a maid. So it came about in the morning that, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, "What is this that you have done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served with you? Why then have you deceived me?" But Laban said, "It is not the practice in our place to marry off the younger before the firstborn. Complete the week of this one, and we will give you the other also for the service which you shall serve with me for another 7 years." Jacob did so and completed her week, and she gave him his daughter Rachel, and he gave him his daughter Rachel as his wife. Laban also gave his maid Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her maid. So Jacob went into Rachel also, and indeed he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served with Laban for another 7 years. Now the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Leah conceived and bore a son and named him Reuben, for she said, "Because the Lord has seen my affliction, surely now my husband will love me." Then she conceived again and bore a son and said, "Because the Lord has heard that I am loved, he has therefore given me this son also." So she named him Simeon. She conceived again and bore a son and said, "Now this time my husband will become attached to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore he was named Levi. And she conceived again and bore a son and said, "This time I will praise the Lord." Therefore she named him Judah. Then she stopped bearing. So we see Jacob goes to Laban, he stays with him, and not only does he stay with Laban, but what else? So Laban's got these 2 daughters. And what happens?
She's barren.
Before we can get to them being barren, what?
Leah's an eight. No, excuse me.
He will marry Leah and then Rebecca.
Right. Whom does Jacob want to marry?
Yeah,
Rachel. And he says, "I'll work for you 7 years if you let me marry Rachel." So he does 7 years, and then what happens?
Time out. Jacob wants to marry Rachel,
Yes.
but Rachel is Laban's daughter.
Yeah. Rachel's his cousin, his first cousin. Yes. All right. So he wants to marry Rachel. Laban says, "Work for me." Hold on. Don't leave yet. Don't get up. Let's see. Almost done. Work for me for 7 years. I'll let you marry Rachel. 7 years finishes. There's the wedding feast, and what happens? Laban sends Leah to Jacob. He wakes up in the morning. There's the sunlight. She was probably veiled for the wedding. Realizes, this is the wrong daughter. This is the wrong daughter, Laban. He says, the deal was for Rachel. Laban says, "All right, fine. Well, I'll let you marry Rachel also, but you got to work another 7 years." So he marries Rachel also. But which one does he love? Rachel, right. Yeah, Rachel's the beautiful one. Leah
You're not so
is not so good looking, and she's got some problems with her eyes. But what happens because he doesn't love Leah? What does the Lord do for Leah?
Give her a kid.
Yeah, gives her not one kid, but
2, 4.
four sons. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. These 4 sons, and Rachel is barren. But the Lord has pity on Leah because she isn't loved by her husband. Each time, notice, poor Leah, each time she gives birth, she says, maybe now my husband will love me because I've given birth to a son for him. All right, we'll pick up with Jacob and Leah and Rachel, that whole thing tomorrow. Goodbye for tomorrow. Okay, let's move to 21 to 30 questions for Friday. We didn't quite finish all of that today. 21 to 30 questions for Friday. Goodbye. Good afternoon. Bye.